one thing that I always get stuck on is wants and needs, and I always kind of get them slightly feel like one away from what they should be. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the wants and needs, and what at what point do you know in the process? Do you know that early on? Should you know that early on?
Well, so if you've gotten into part three of my book, which is taking the theory that we talk about in the first two parts and really applying it in a very practical way,
Yeah,
like, here's a process, a character-driven process you can use to get to essentially a scene-by-scene outline. The very first step, what I call a protagonist character treatment. And I
yeah,
do this at the undergraduate and graduate level with my students in film school, where when they're starting a process like thesis students, we over 3 quarters, they develop the story, they write a first draft, they rewrite it. That first quarter, where they're developing the story, they spend weeks with the characters before they even start thinking about plot. And so those categories, want and need, is like literally the first two questions
right.
and 8 questions of the protagonist character
Yeah,
treatment. What do they want? What
yeah,
do they need? That's not my language system. That's been around for I don't know how long.
yeah, yeah,
But the twist I put on it is this, and this may help you. I say, all right, yeah, you can say, what do they want uh, when they enter the story? What are their goals? Their what are their desires? But by the end of Act One, let's specify that question. What is their conscious goal? Things have happened. There's been as Campbell calls it, the call to adventure, or
yeah,
the inciting incident midway
yeah,
through the first act that's going to propel them into the rest of the journey. By the end of Act One, what is their conscious goal? They want the promotion. They want to find the treasure. They want to defeat the bad guy.
yeah,
That they're consciously aware of, and they are moving toward this goal. That's the path of least resistance toward creating an active protagonist, a proactive protagonist, which is something in Hollywood, that they like, because they don't, the passive protagonist they complain about. Look, you can do any type of story. There's not one way to do it, but the path of least resistance to get there is, okay, they've got a conscious goal by the end of Act One. So that's my little spin on it. It's not just one. It's like, what are they specifically going for by the end of the first act?
right.
Need is a similar thing. And to me, that's why the story exists, is the need.
Yeah,
That's why
yeah,
you need to start with the character, and you need to look at the protagonist and figure out what it is they need. And there are not just one thing, there's layers going on there.
yeah,
And you try to, again, by the end of Act One, find that thing that is their unconscious goal. This is really the reason why the story exists. Joseph Campbell says that the outer journey is, quote, incidental compared to
yeah,
the inner journey. It's all
yeah,
about the experiences that the protagonist, the hero or heroine, has in the outer world, which drives them inside and precipitates that change. They start to re-examine their old ways of being and find that those are not reflective of an authentic existence. And what's happening is they are getting in touch with something that's already there. That's their unconscious goal. It's that deepest need. And that bubbles
yeah,
up and empowers them.
yeah,
So if they start off a cynic, well, inside they're probably as an idealism that's been latent. It's
right.
been, like in Casablanca. That's with
Yeah,
Rick. He's become a
yeah,
cynic. But inside, just like Victor Laszlo says, I think you're selling a man who's trying to convince himself that he doesn't
yeah,
believe, right? Um,
yeah,
if he's a cynic, then there's probably an idealism inside. If they're a selfish person, there's probably a selfless nature that's inside. If
yeah,
Dorothy doesn't feel like Kansas is a home, well, there's probably deep inside that there is a way in which she does believe that it is a home. She has to go in this journey, just like Glinda the Good Witch
right.
says.
Yeah,
Dorothy, you've always had the power to go home. Well, why didn't you tell her? She had to go on the
yeah,
journey to discover that,
yeah. She
right?
wouldn't believe it
So
herself.
want and need are tied intimately,
Yeah,
but the need is the real reason. That's why the story exists. I have this question in my protagonist character treatment. Why does this story have to happen to this character at this time. It's not
Right.
random. It's not 2 years from now. It's not 2 weeks ago. It's right now. And that set of
Yeah.
characters and all the adventure that they have, that is all about them learning what their deepest need is, embracing that, and moving toward a state of unity empowered by that need. So
Yeah.
they're related and different. A lot of times, just to wrap up this sermonette,
Yeah.
the need
That's great.
transforms the want. They find out,
Yeah.
you know what? I didn't want that rival guy. I want this guy,
Yeah.
right? I didn't want that job promotion. I want my family,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's what I need,
Yeah.
you know? So I that if you get it, I did a Blacklist uh, feature writers lab. I've done a bunch of them, like over 20,
Yeah.
and I did one in 2015 in New York. And Bo Willimon, House of Cards, was one of the mentors, and he took out each of the writers in the lab, Greenwich Village. They went for a walk. And he said the only thing he did when he was talking about their stories, he read their scripts, was he said, "What does your protagonist need?" And he just kept asking that question.
Right.
No, you're
Yeah.
not there yet.
Yeah.
Go down deeper. What is that? And I was always impacted by that. I thought that's exactly right. You got to keep digging into the
Yeah.
protagonist and discover those depths of what's going on, but get down to that thing. Why do they need this story?
Yeah.
The journey they take is the journey they need to take. That's
Yeah.
that need. So I hope that's helpful in delineating between those two.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's really helpful.